you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hello, this is Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, when the Iron Lady sings it with a shrill voice, it means the Chris Voss Show is live. Welcome to the show, folks. As always, we bring in the most amazing authors and minds on the show for the last 16 years, 2,800 episodes, one of the oldest living podcasts still living. Still living and kicking, as it were. Anyway, guys, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Facebook.com/Chris Voss, and YouTube.com/Chris Voss, one word. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today's featured author comes to us from bookstolifemarketing.co.uk. With expert publishing to strategic marketing, they help authors reach their audience and maximize their book success. Today we have an amazing young man on the show. We're going to be talking about his book called Beautiful Souls, The Ways of Wonder, out January 15th, 2026 by Christopher Adam Rice. We're going to get into it with him and find out some of his insights and all that good stuff and ways you could possibly make your life better. He is a man who has struggled to find a way to create a beautiful and inspired life by choosing to view life in an inspired manner. Welcome to the show, Christopher. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. And give us .com, so websites. Where can people find out more about you on the interwebs?
Yeah, it's beautifulsouls.com, and there's two S's at the end of souls.
Beautiful Souls, as it were. Yeah. So give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside this book? Beautiful
Souls, The Ways of Wonder it's a collection of photos and a collection of quotes. What we did with the original book was called Beautiful Souls, the inspirational quotes and collections. But what we did was we had a Facebook group, and the philosophy of Beautiful Souls is that, if you will seek to find beauty and inspiration in your day-to-day life, just what's already there that you can find to focus upon. As you're looking for beauty and inspiration in your day-to-day life, you tend to find more of it. Just the act of looking for something, you create more of it. And then if you're staying in a place of beauty and inspiration, then you're vibrating, you're creating more of that in your life. And once you really get to trying to do this, the universe will surprise you with gifts of experience and magic. And the ways of wonder, there's a writing in here, and it's being in a state of wonder is a place where you're high vibrational, you're inspired, you're in a place of magic and wonder, and it's a good vibrational place to be in, because everything is wonderful, and it's an open door for the universe to surprise you with new experiences. Yeah. And so how we wrote the book, or how we orchestrated the book, was that I asked the question, what do you find beautiful and inspiring in your day-to-day life? And my members of my group would send me pictures, and we were all taking pictures to capture the beauty and inspiration. Yeah. And they would send me pictures, and we organized the book, and it's a book for the people, by the people.
Book for the people, by the people. Other people contributed to this book as well?
They have. Okay. And that's the idea going forward, is to get more people to look for beauty and inspiration in their day-to-day life. And as we do this, it will not only will it make their life better, but it'll make the world a better place, because everybody is looking for what they find beautiful, what they find inspiring, and being in a better state of mind and creating peace and happiness.
And what you focus on is what you get. You know, I remember Anthony Robbins used to tell the story of how two different people can go to the same party, and one can be, you know, we'll just call it a house party for fun in college or something, but they can go to a party, and one person will see, oh, everyone's having fun and laughing and drinking and talking to each other and very vibrant atmosphere. And another person can go and be like, that was a depressing party. No one was being friendly. It was awful. And a lot of times we project whatever issues or things that are going on with us onto other people, onto other experiences. And, you know, we kind of get what we look for. And, you know, he talks about the reticulator activating system. And basically we have this focusing system that what it does is when we believe something, it starts to collect data that reinforces that belief system. The only problem is there's no end to the batshittery that humans can come up with for a belief system. You know, I mean, I can believe that, you know, there's purple Martians walking around controlling our government right now. And then my brain will start collecting data for that batshittery. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, see that one politician's wearing a blue tie. That's code for the blue Martians, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the philosophy of this.
Yeah. And so what you focus on is what you get. Now, this is more than just a book. It's a movement, correct?
It's a movement. And the goal is to raise the vibration of the planet. And the only way to do that is to get a movement of a group or expand this idea. And it doesn't have to be for beauty and inspiration. It could be for love and light or happiness. But we all want better things in our life, and we want to live in a better world. And everybody approaches that in a different manner. And this is my way of creating a better world, and that's to seek the beauty. And I changed my life. I really did. I changed my life greatly with using this philosophy.
Let's talk about your life and some of the things that impacted you and then influenced you to write this book to help other people. Tell us about some of the things that went through your life that, you know, kind of led you down this pathway where you discovered, you learned, maybe made mistakes like we all do. Tell us about your story and what led you down the pathway to where finally you decided to write this book.
Yeah, I lived a very hard life, I early on, I was very good at working and construction, that kind of stuff. And so I worked on the road. I made good money. But one of the aspects of working on the road is that you're not at home at night. And so, going out to drink and partying, and that becomes part of the workday, And so I ended up, with habits that, every working man on the road has. And, so they took over, and you ended up, like we say, the things that we look for, we find. And when you're drinking or something like that, your view of your desire to view good things kind of goes out the window. And so you see all the batshittery, as you call it, you see all that. And so you kind of lay in all that. And so then things just tend to get worse and worse for you. And it doesn't have to be drugs or alcohol. It could be just the state of mind that you have, that you see all the negative. And I lived a very negative life, and life was tough. I was isolated quite a bit. And after a period of time, I finally got, I had to go to jail for a little while. Oh. And then once I got out, I really, I'd had enough time that I wanted to try to change my life. I didn't know how I was going to do that. I had a little $50 phone, and, I live out here in the mountains in Kentucky, and I have the access to walk and hike. And so I was reaching for spirit guides, and I did connect with spirit guides, and they started teaching me. And, now we have the internet, so we have access to all the teachings of everybody that's ever lived, basically. And, I was being shown stuff. I was being taught I followed teachers such as Bob Proctor and Anthony Robbins, Tony Robbins, as you said, and Abraham Hicks. And so I studied all these people and all the stuff that they had. Like I say, I was negative minded, very negative minded. And all I really wanted, and once I understood the laws of attraction, laws of vibration, I understood that what we really want is to find peace and happiness. And that's what we need above all. And if you start a business, you make a lot of money, or you have a relationship and you're totally in love, you're going to feel happy and at peace when you get that. It's what you think. I get those things, then I'll be at peace and I'll be happy. But you can't. You never get there. You never get there. Started practicing, trying to smile, trying to hold peace, hold happiness. And once I realized that it was based on my perspective of things and what I was looking for throughout my day, that's how this came about, was that I understood, well, hey, I need to look for things that I find inspiring or find beautiful or that would make me happy, and kind of focus on those and experience the emotions of those things. And the more you experience the emotion of happiness and peace and beauty and inspiration, you can actually experience that now without making the $100,000 a year job or without having the in-love relationship. You can experience happiness and peace and exercise those emotions. And that was the beginning of Beautiful Souls book. And the idea was that I would go through my walks and look for things that I found beautiful. And I took a lot of pictures of lots of flowers and experiences and people. You know, with the internet, I talked with a lot of people and finding a way to view things, even every experience that you have the option of viewing that in a positive light, a negative light, or a neutral light, and finding a way to shift your emotions towards the positive is that's what all the teachers are trying to convey to you, is how do you reach this peace and happiness.
And yeah, it's interesting. What we focus on sometimes is what we get. And I would offer you that some people do they get caught in that negative loop where they get caught in darkness, and we all do that, I think, sometimes. And sometimes they kind of want misery. Some people were raised in blueprints from their parents that just taught them that's the way you live life. That's not the way you live life, but it basically, gave them this blueprint that, oh, this is the way life is supposed to be. Like some people like relationships that have a lot of drama and problems and different issues like that. And they just don't know any better. Maybe they were just taught that, and it
feels normal for them. Feels normal because that's what they have always had. And that's the same for me. I was very negative, and I didn't know how to change it. I mean, and every time you do try to change it, it's like you get drugged back into the negativity. And so there's a hump that you have to get over. But with this idea, it's very simple, but very powerful. We don't try to do anything other than take today and try to find something that you are inspired by. It doesn't matter if it's on the internet, if it's out in the day-to-day, your family, your dogs, or something that you find beautiful or inspiring. What we're looking for is an emotion that is on the positive side and that we can exercise today, because this is an exercise, and everything in life is an exercise. What you practice exercising is what you get strong at. And when when you're starting this, all we're doing is looking for something that you find beautiful, or that you find inspiring, or that you find peaceful or happy. And when you continually do that every day, you'll build up to doing it more times a day. And the more you lay into that, the more you'll receive of it. And, it takes about 30 days. But if you really try to find a more beautiful way of describing your life, you'll find it. The Bible says, seek and you shall. So we seek beauty and inspiration out in the world so that we may find it within ourselves. That's one of my quotes. But it's basically so simple that it's amazing, really. You just look for things that you're attracted to. and try to find them and then keep after that. That's the exercise.
Yep. Did you ever feel like, sorry, they're having little voice issues. Did you ever have doubts that people would understand or connect with the message? Yeah. Do you ever think maybe they might, not be able to get it? It seems like most people should be able to get it, but at least so I think.
They should, but the world we live in, it's a hard world sometimes. And, you start talking about beauty and inspiration. They say, well, that ain't going to pay the bills, and they say that's airy fairy and that's fluffy and all that, but it's not going to get the job done. But yeah, of course. No, it's too simple and too easy. And it doesn't feel like working and producing. Working and producing, you got to make money. You got to make your day go around. And this just seems like something that you would do for fun or entertainment. But the power of this is that, the world is quite magical and quite quantum, depending on how you'd like to look at it. Quantum physics states that as you observe, the observer changes the actual molecules and the atoms and the particles that, as you're observing it. But it changes, and that's scientific description of it. But as we look for the beauty and inspiration, but of course, no one understood what I was trying to say. And it's been, it has been tough, but people love the idea, the idea of it. It's just the mechanics behind it that is hard to understand.
Yeah, definitely. Let's get into some of the other things. Now, you have on your website, you have different things that are going on there. Tell us about some of the offerings you have over there on the site.
Yeah, we have some courses available. Of course, we have a charity. I have a little school in India that, the universe brought to us. And this gentleman over there, he's a very poor man, but he tries. And in India, there's a lot of children that lose their parents, either one or both. And so we've been helping him along the way. And he has a little school that he tries to take care of about 400 kids. And he's trying to be a thought leader in his area. We have courses for sale to kind of explain more of this idea and how to put it in practice. I have a few books. I have this book, of course, for sale. And then we have a book that's coming out very soon, the next few weeks, called, I think we're going to call it The Rebirth of Beautiful Souls. And it's it's kind of an autobiography of what's happened since I started practicing this. I went from a $15 an hour job, struggling, had never made any money really, to I had a business that was doing very, very good, and ended up getting married in the south of France to a French woman, had 2 children internationally. And so the autobiography will be an explanation of kind of what's happened since I started practicing this, and now that I'm re-engaging with the process and trying to create another magical ride, we'll say.
What's the title of the 2 courses that you offer right now?
It is Master Your Divinity, and let's see, what's the other? Master Your Divinity and
Manifestation, I think, isn't it?
The Art of Manifestation.
Yep. And the Master Divinity, now, is that based on any certain religious tome or kind of a general tome, or how does that work?
I think it's probably something different than we're all used to. I believe that we are all divine beings. We're all a spark of God. I believe that we are not utilizing our full capabilities as divine beings. And most of that is because we don't believe that we can. We don't understand that we are divine. Now, everyone is into the manifestation. We love the laws of attraction. We love the laws of vibration. But why does that work? Why and how does that work? It works because we're divine. We have more power within ourselves than we know about or that we understand how to use. And Master Your Divinity is an introduction to the fact that you are divine and, showing you more about who you really are. And I think there's a lot of that coming out now, or at least I see that there's a lot of that coming out.
Yeah, a lot of people are, they're starting to realize a lot of these different techniques and things, and they're age old. Like you've talked about, they're age old in how they're set up. Where this wisdom has been around forever because it's wisdom and it works, right?
Yeah, it works, and like you say, it's been here forever. But if we're never taught to look at it, and we're never taught that it exists, then we have to do everything the mechanical way. We have to do everything the 3D way. We have to do everything cause and effect. We have to do it manually. And so this is an introduction to using your power that you really are, your spiritual power. The stronger you become spiritually, the less physical force you have to use to manifest and to change the world around you.
Yeah. I mean, it's really important. And then the charity, people can, what can people do with the charity on your website? Can they make donations to interact in some way?
They can make donations. And we have photos of the little school and all the children. We'd be happy for donations. They're trying to buy property right now in India. It's very cheap. It's $4 an acre, I think. I don't know if it's an acre, but it's very cheap. So any help at all would help them. But yeah, we have a donate button or a donate QR code in there. You can scan that and donate. Any amount would be fine. We appreciate that. And the sale of the book actually goes to the charity as well, too. The Beautiful Souls, The Ways of Wonder, that's going to go to the charity. And that's my contribution. And I feel very honored to get to be the individual who puts out this divine message of love and light and beauty and inspiration. And so I'm going to, most of the stuff that we produce under the Beautiful Souls name will go into the charity for charitable causes.
That's a wonderful thing to take and give to people, share, and enlighten the world and make it a better place. And then, do you have an anticipated release date for the second book that you've been talking about?
I don't, but we will have that on the website very shortly. We've got it's in the editing process right now, and so we're hoping within a few weeks, and we'll be publishing it and marketing it with Barnes and Nobles and some of the other top book clubs.
All right. With the book, who do you think this is targeted mostly to? Is it an age group or any sort of group, or just pretty much everybody?
I think it's pretty much everyone. The way what I tried to do was make a coffee table book. That when you saw it laying on the coffee table, you say, "Oh, what's that?" That's why it's so colorful. And then when you open it up, you kind of feel the deeper message of it. And I wanted to make it attractive, and I think it would be attractive to children as well as adults. And it's meant to be eye-catching. Yet when you open it up, you start to grasp the idea of it.
Yeah, very interesting that way, and lots of stuff people can utilize in learning more about it. When you wrote this book, did it change your life?
It did. It did change my life. Like I said, I had never had much success. I was a construction worker and a farmer, and so whenever I wrote the book, I don't know if I believed in myself more or I manifested a totally different life. And I went from just sitting on my back porch in Kentucky, drinking beer to I got married in the south of France. My wife was from the south of France. And she lived in Norway. So I traveled to Norway and traveled to the south of France and had a lot of great experiences there. It opened up the world for me, but it was the idea of looking for beauty and inspiration in my daily life. That's what changed, and it changed the whole world for me. And everything that I looked at was beautiful. Everything was inspiring. And when you live in that state, it is a vibration. It is an energy that you're living in, and you're living in one now. And it may be 50% good and 50% bad. But when you go ahead and go all in to something that you feel is a high vibrational idea, and you live in that idea, it shifts the whole world for you. And it did for me. I traveled, I've been to 9 or 10 countries and brought gifts back and souvenirs back and just been all over the world to, from nothing, from, like I said, sitting on the back porch, drinking beer and doing nothing with myself to going on a magical ride. It was magical. It was exceptional. And that's what the autobiography is going to tell you about is how, what my thought process was and what all has happened. It has been a magical ride. It's changed things greatly.
Change things greatly and lets them know how to do it. With one thing you do talk in the book is it being in a state of wonder. What does that mean for you and listeners out there?
Being in a state of wonder is one of the magical vibrational states, we'll say. Because if you're in a state of wonder, it's a state of awe. It's okay. You don't have to know everything. You're wondering you might wonder how it's going to be, or it can feel wonderful. Wonder is, you don't have to know everything with wonder. It's mystical and magical. And, it's just a place of being. And for me, a state of wonder is it's a place of being to where you are open for all the things that you might want and all the experiences that you might want to experience. Yet it's a piece of where you are already. You're just fine. So being in a state of wonder is you're okay where you're at. You're fine. You're happy where you're at. And yet you're open and willing and open to all the magical experiences that it might produce.
Yeah, I mean, what you focus on is what you get. If your brain has a really great subconscious system that's great at problem solving and different things like that. And if you're having trouble, finding what you want, you focus on it. And, you wake up in the morning and your brain will give you your subconscious brain. Well, we worked on this all night where you were asleep and we played it out. And here's some solutions maybe for your dealio. And I mean, that's the real key. And so people need to see that and people need to, know what's going on there. And I'm glad you're sharing the light and inspiration because a lot of people don't get that, I remember there was an old, who was it? It was the old radio guy who used to do positive stuff. He was kind of the forefront, Earl Nightingale, I think it was, and from his radio show. Yeah. And he talked about how he came across this epiphany where this guy and his wife had moved into their neighborhood across the street from them. And one day he noticed they put up a sign like a year after they moved in to move out. And he saw the guy outside mowing the lawn and he went over to him and said, "Oh, you're moving. You just barely moved in here." He goes, "Yeah, my wife doesn't like it. No one's friendly here. No one likes her. No one associates with her. No one socializes with her. She just finds that this place is really miserable and people are unfriendly." And he said, "That's odd because, it's a friendly neighborhood I live in." He goes, "Has she gone out and reached out to people? No. Has she gone out to events or social stuff? No. Has she reached out to people to try and make friends? No. She's just sat in her house and stewed." And so it's interesting how people can create this what would you call it? Self-fulfilling prophecy of the belief systems they tend to adopt.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then they see through those rose-colored lenses. Everything is tainted by that. So great example, and I'm glad you help people focus on what needs to be focused. So as we go out, Christopher, give people your final thoughts at pitchout.com. Where can they find you on the interwebs? Christopher?
Yeah, we have Beautiful Souls. If you'd like to message us, it's at info@beautifulsouls.com. It's the 2 S's again. And so I'm looking for people to work with, businesses and individuals. We're going to be writing more books. We're going to be setting up more promotional. Just going all in on creating a more beautiful and inspired life for myself and for others. And, our end goal is to raise the vibration of the planet. So it's a big, big goal, but then it'll give us something to work on from now on. And it'll give other people something to work on too. There's only, we all experiencing our world in one manner, and that's through our emotions. And our emotions tell us, and our heart tells us really where we are and where we want to be. Our mind is there to go get it for us, but our heart is where we're actually living. And we have the power to live in a positive state right now. And as we live in that positive state, our mind will go find us more experiences and more cars and businesses and all this stuff to support what our heart wants. And in the Bible, they told you to marry the two, marry the heart and the mind. When you put the heart and the mind together in sync, your heart needs it and wants it. It has the desire. Your mind is powerful and will go find it and make it so. Then the world is really open for you. You can do anything you want, and we've all heard that. But I've really put it to the test and experienced just a shocking change and revelation of what could be done. People that know me, it's, why in the world would you do all that? I said, yeah, but nobody else has done it. And I did it. I traveled the world. I did get married across, and I did create a life that no one else has experienced yet. And it was massive and it was magical. And now I'm in the process of expanding on what I've done. And I'm excited about seeing what will come out, what will come from all this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it should be excellent there. So as we go out, to give the .com one last time.
It's beautifulsouls.com. It's beautifulsouls.com with 2 S's at the end of souls.
Thank you for coming on the show, Christopher. Really appreciate it. And thanks for sharing your inspiring message that can help others live a better life.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com, and all those crazy places under Chris Voss. Order up the book wherever fine books are sold. It's called Beautiful Souls, The Ways of Wonder, out January 15th, 2026. It's always good to have gratitude and to take a look at our life and focus on beauty in life, because you got to enjoy the journey. I used to focus on the destination, and that's not the way to go, folks. Focus on the journey. Look around. You'd be surprised what you're going to find. And many times you find that the journey you think you're on isn't the journey and destination you're going to find. And you're going to find the one that you hopefully need to find, especially if you're looking for it. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.
All right, Christopher, great show.